Another day, another countdown coming your way. Kickoff countdown here at lcsportsnet.com, powered by LCAP. Our get-togethers, as always, here on the podcast, courtesy of Penn, Ohio Bottled Water. Make sure you give them a call, and don't forget about their custom label option for your business or organization. Counting down the days until opening kickoff, 15 days away to 2025 football season. Still counting down some of the top players. We're going to look at the top trenches this year, looking both in terms of individuals, but also in terms of the teams more than the individual players. In all honesty, here when we're looking at these trenches, but we're going to give you a few names as well that we're going to be talking about. And by we, I mean myself, James Dotson, and Tim Continenza joining us again for our countdown talk as we're can't believe it just over 2 weeks away from opening night. So let's get right into it. Some of the top teams that we're going to see with offensive line play, because in the end, before we break down and give our top five picks here again, Tim, it's all about offensive line play. It's always about offensive line play. It's not going to be the flashy stuff that you talk about. You don't get the flashy stuff if you don't have the five guys in the trenches doing their job. And we got to give a little love to the big men out there.
You got to get a dirty job done, and those five guys up front get the dirty job done for every team. So important to be able to get off the block, make the holes for your running backs, to protect your quarterback, to get momentum in a football game, and in the fourth quarter to really wind the clock down. You do that with your offensive line. You do it with big plays, but it's really when it comes down to the guys up front and how successful they are of doing their jobs. It gives teams a chance in the fourth quarter to soak away a victory. So they are, as you mentioned, the bread and butter of a football team.
Well, let's get into it with our top five, again, based off consensus rankings. And this is the toughest one in terms of getting the rankings. Again, unfortunately, because of the fact that you don't get a lot of love for some of the big guys. But we're going to start at number five with Nishanik. Joey Veronese is the guy that we're going to be highlighting here, a 3-year starter, Tim. The center kind of running show as a sophomore moves. He's been all around the line, kind of a, do what you need kind of guy. This Nishanik line year in, year out is always going to be stellar. I think it's very telling, though, is the fact that the only player who was an all-conference player last year is Tony Parada. He has now graduated, but the rest of that line pretty much intact. And what I was most impressed about is they did rotate in a good number of guys on both the offensive and defensive lines, staying fresh throughout the year. I mean, Coach Bonjavengo did a great job in his first year. I don't think that even when you lose your lineman of the year in Parada, I think this team is still going to be moving in the right direction, and you're going to have definitely one, maybe two, 1,000-yard rushers this year on that Nishanik team.
No question about it. There's that potential. They should be able to get there. And what you brought up is it's just great coaching. Is you don't just use the five guys. You get 6, 7, or 8 guys in a rotation. Get them experience. Let them understand what is necessary to win a football game and to play. And that's what Nishanik has done successfully over the years. And that is what gives them that opportunity to grow as a unit. And that is so important with the offensive line is to be a unit. It's not just one player. It's all five working together in a zone block going to the left or zone block going to the right or firing out and pulling and all those parts of being an offensive lineman. And when you have an offensive line, like Joey is, and then you get a kid who has experienced different play lines. He's been a tackle, he's been a guard, he's played at center. He has a lot of experience on that, and it may, in the end, just give him that opportunity to continue to grow and be one of the leaders for Nishanik. And we know over the last 5 years and even beyond that how important the offensive line is to Nishanik. I mean, they have absolutely win and lose ball games for the Lancers. It begins and ends right there every year.
And give a shout out. Dante Canciello was another guy who was big. KK, as they call him, one of the guys who was kind of rotating in and out as necessary. You're going to have names that you're going to have heard if you're an Shannon Lancer fan, but maybe not heard regularly again because of that rotation. So fresh next man up mentality and some good ball carriers will also make your line look a little bit better as well, and they certainly have that. Jump up to number 4, and an all-conference player from a year ago in Jacob Kammerer leading the Shenango offensive line. Yeah, the big 6 foot, 250-pound O lineman there for the Cats. They did it kind of almost was under the radar, I guess, the best way to put it for Shenango because of, they didn't get all the wins, but there were some really impressive rushing performances from the quarterback, Sam Patton, and from AJ Farilla. He's coming back this year. Those two in particular, running the ball, I don't think was much, at least I didn't expect to see that much success running the football with the young offensive line and the relatively smaller offensive line that you get at a small school like Shenango. But Kammerer especially was a real impressive force in the trenches, and Coach Graham and company got them working in the right direction.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They got him working in the right direction, but more importantly, I think is it's just showing the confidence that you have in a young man who continue to have the opportunity to grow into position and is real coachable, and that's what I think you're seeing that coaching staff for Shenango take advantage of in Kramer, and he's done a nice job. Again, he's a solid force. He's a guy who you can run behind. He's a guy who a quarterback knows is going to be there to help block when he's in the passing zone. So I think that's really important. Like you said, a smaller school last year, which is kind of a difficult year in and out for the program. But it's a new year season, and new opportunities, and hopefully, we'll see the continued growth of this young man in Kramer and see where he can help lead this Shenango team. We've seen Shenango in the past be very good on the football field,
Mm-hmm.
and it won't shock me again if they're kind of like under the radar and people not paying attention to them, and all of a sudden you're going to notice, look where Shenango's at right now, and people are going to pay attention to what they can do.
Moving up to number 3, another team who I will be blatantly honest, I was not expecting Mohawk to be able to run the football like they did a year ago. They lost the majority of their offensive line. The system was going to be a little bit different. I did not expect them to come out guns a-blazing like they did, and it began with Dan Monaco. My word, was he an absolute beast. He's our number 3 man in the trenches. They're going to return a good chunk of their line again this year. You lose a couple of pieces in there. You'll lose a tight end and Chapman, who was a good blocker and receiver. But I again think that this is going to be a team that is going to be run centric with Bobby Fadden behind center. They're going to run the ball first. They're going to have a good mix, no question about it. But Coach McCutcheon, he finds a way. And let me tell you that. And Monaco, and they got a couple other starters coming back, but Big Dan, an all-conference player, coming back on that line.
Yeah, and zone blocking is so big for them. They love to be able to really control a line going left or right, and that's going to be really important. And what Monaco is so good at is just being resilient. He doesn't allow one play come back and haunt him. He gets right back after and does his job, and he's a leader on that offensive line, and that's so important. I mean, the more experience you get, the more you know what you can see ahead of time or as it's developing. And then you add a quarterback who can improvise as much as they have. Um, that's a challenge for an offensive line because you never know what's going to happen. And, be honest with you, he can throw the ball too. So, and they've known to throw the ball in the past. So, as much as they like to run it, and because of that ability, I think it'll be interesting to see if they, more of a 50-50 mix this year.
Moving up to number 2, a freshman last year, but immediately thrown into the fold and was immediately named as the defensive lineman all-conference, big-time defense, but also big-time on offense as well, was Tyler Fuchs. The coaches warned us right from the get-go that we were going to be calling his name. I'm still impressed at the number of times we called this young man's name in his freshman year. Only expect more from the sophomore now here in Spartan country.
One of the years gone by, we used to have a offensive defense award in Ohio that was just for the local area that they called it uh, the Beast, and that was just for the offensive defensive lineman, and that's what he's a beast. He's a guy who can play both ways. He can do what you need him to do. Uh, he's a guy who you build your offensive line around, and he's a strong young man, and that's what you need. You need a guy who you know is going to get in there and get dirty a little bit, and not afraid to have a grain grass stains all over his uniform when he's done, because he's going to be down there. He's going to find a way to take advantage of a defensive line that's going to come at him. He's going to move him out of the way, and that's the most important thing. And then defensively, we've seen what he can do, and he's a young guy, and so it's going to be a lot of fun to watch him grow from year to year. I think that's the most important thing, is to see the growth he had, you know, from last year to this year. I bet you it can be quite amazing on what level he could be playing at this season.
Before we give our number one, again, a couple of honorable mentions I want to give a shout out to. First, Elwood City's PJ Dubois is the big man, the nose guard, big stuff defensively. Not the gaudy stats, but he does his job of eating up room and just taking out multiple offensive linemen at a time. Mentioned Dante Cancielo, one of the returners for Neshannock. Got to mention Jaden Schaefer though too. He had such a big year. Actually, he was the Parkway Conference Defensive Player of the Year. Hint, hint. We'll be talking about him in a future podcast about one of the top guys coming back. But those guys, especially big guys in the trenches that we're hoping to be talking about. And Union, a small team kind of like Shenango. Obviously, you lose your big lineman there from Jamel Mitchell from a year ago. Got some guys we expect to hear coming up this year for their senior year, in Isaac Casciato or Damien Carbone, as potentially big men in the trenches to get some stuff done for that Scotty's team. But number one, and honestly, I think the biggest question mark here was which lineman we were going to officially name, because all five offensive linemen for Wilmington made the all-region team
Yeah,
a year ago. But we'll give it to Jacob Coulter coming back, the other first teamer from the region, and Maverick Whiting, a big part of it too. While we're at it, let's name all five linemen, because Aiden Boyer and Colin Rowley, as well as Danny Leonard, all juniors last year, all seniors this year, all coming back, and you don't get
yeah,
what's
and
you don't
and
get a
that's
rushing team like that. We're probably going to see 1,000-yard rushers from that team this year. Wouldn't surprise us at all.
no, and that's what I was just going to mention. When you have a whole offensive line coming back, and the success level that they had last year, that's a dream come true for any coach. Let's be
Yeah.
honest, and it is again, not a surprise. This is what Wilmington does. Year after year. That's usually what they can do. And they establish the run, they establish their offensive play style, and then they kind of beat you with the offbeat plays at times. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, like I say, I think this next step with this offensive line, as good as it is, we know that they're going to be able to control the running. And if they can give Van Gale just a little time when he needs to throw the ball, and they can prove that on any given game they can throw 10 times if necessary, this Wilmington team could be very special. And it begins with the guys up front, and it's going to be led there um, by Jacob Coulter. And it's just amazing what the Greyhounds can be this year. I really think this is a team we're gonna be talking about a lot, just because of their the style of play, where they're from, and and obviously they're in D10, so it's a little different than what we always talk about each.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and you return 11 starters on offense, 11 starters on defense. You're
Yeah,
already
yeah.
in good
Well, a
shape.
small school, they're not a big surprise, but
Right. That it might be 11 players that are the exact same right now. Not quite, but yes, that's
yeah,
it is a big part of it. But yeah, you return literally every starter from a team that won districts last year and made it to
yeah.
the state quarterfinals. So expecting big things for Coach Fillion and the Hounds behind that big offensive line led by Jacob Coulter. So there you go. Veronese of Neshannock, Cameron of Shenango, Monica of Mohawk, Fuchs of Laurel, and Coulter of Wilmington are five in the trenches. Our top five highlighted there. Again, this is the toughest one overall. A lot of disparity, but really a lot of, again, good guys, strong guys on those offensive and defensive lines that are a big part of their team success. And I like to give a little love to the guys as well. So best of luck to all of them. Thanks for tuning in. Again, we got one more countdown for you on positions, but much more coming next week as well. Stay tuned. Big time stuff coming up. Thanks again, Tim Continenza. Thanks again, Penn Ohio Bottled Water. Thanks again for you tuning in on the Kickoff Countdown Show on Lawrence County SportsNet, powered by LCAP.